So they're making a Metal Gear Solid 3 remaster.
Snake Eater. Fucking yes. Come on.
Ross might be the most
Absolutely.
excited person in the world for this.
Honestly, I'm a massive, massive, massive Metal Gear Solid fan. And I actually missed the announcement. Someone said, oh, you know the remaster of Metal Gear Solid? Holy fucking shit. Absolutely in love with this. Cannot wait. Awesome
It's
tune. Awesome
exciting. It's
game.
exciting. There is a question though, isn't there, Ross? Of like, it's
Mm,
Konami, isn't it? Metal Gear Solid.
it is, yeah.
Yeah. Have they remastered anything before previously?
Oh, very good question. So they like I think it's about 2 years ago. They did a sort of Contra. No, it's not a remaster; it's a reboot, and that's what we need to sort of focus on here.
Yeah.
It's reboots, really. They did a Contra sort of reboot with another. I think it was with another developer, and it was okay. Like didn't sort of do anything. One of the best Contra games I've played, and it was actually well, I don't think it was called Contra over here. It was called something like Super Probotector, which is a weird ass name, but
Oh,
it was called like
sounds ass rapey, does that, Ross?
but it was so good. It was a Super Nintendo game, but you could play two-player co-op, and basically it was running, gunning, side-scrolling action. The bosses looked horrendous. It was an awesome game.
Yeah, well, I only ask because obviously, like, I think the Metal Gear Solid 3, because that's the one they're remastering, isn't it? Initially.
It's Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta, and there's a thing about Delta. I think for somehow Delta comes
Like,
first in
is
that.
that the best Metal Gear Solid game?
Oh, so I mean, you and I are gonna sort of potentially like butt heads on this. So I would say, in terms of story and character, I'd say Metal Gear Solid One. That is the greatest, one of the best ones, but it's not the best game. Metal Gear Solid Two, I definitely clocked in more hours in Metal Gear Solid Two than Three. Three brought a whole new bloody level to it. Four was just five feature length movies back to back. It was more
I liked
costing than
4.
movie.
I
I
really
love.
liked
I
4.
like, don't get me wrong. I
Um,
loved it. Five.
I think
My
3 is the best game, though.
overall, yes.
Obviously,
Yeah.
you're the bigger fan of the story,
Mhm.
which obviously because these are really cinematic games, and this isn't just going to be a Metal Gear Solid conversation because we're leading into something here. Just give
Buckle
us
up.
10 to 20 minutes for it. But like, I think 3 had the best mechanics. It was more fun. It was
Mm.
lower tech, which kind of worked in the confines of it. It was a bit less. It's
Well, they sort of used
cartoony.
like
It's fun. It's weird.
quote
It's
unquote
manga-y.
experimental tech as well. So basically,
Yeah.
so they were still able to bring stuff in there. But yeah, like the manga style, like influence of it. Again, the characters, and it's because then as well. It's because there's already an established story with Metal Gear Solid, Metal Gear 2, Solid Snake, Metal Gear Solid, and Metal Gear Solid 2. Basically, it adds to that by like going way. And bear in mind, Metal Gear Solid 2 ends on like on a cliffhanger. Like you go, what the hell? And they don't even bother addressing that. Like, oh, by the way, this is now a prequel. Deal with it. Um, but yeah, I think you're right. As overall sort of best game because it introduces like loads of mechanics like the stealth sort of meter, which sort of made its way into Metal Gear Solid 4. Yeah, Snake has what's his name? Old no, not Old Snake. Venom Snake? No, Venom was five.
In
What was he
3,
called? Naked Snake. Yes, Naked
Naked
Snake.
Snake.
He has to eat. You have to like cure like ailments, heal wounds, and patch them up and stuff like that. It was brilliant. What's incredible for games like this, and this is true across all Metal Gear Solid games, is there's things in the game that, despite the amount of playthroughs you get, it's like an RPG. Despite the number of playthroughs you can get, you can always come across something new. Like for example, if Naked Snake, for example, is sick, if he eats some rotten meat, when you inspect the character in the menu, if you just spin him round and round, round and round repeatedly for like 30 seconds, when you come out of that menu, he'll vomit. And he vomits up the rotten food. Like the
That's
quirky
funny.
things like that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's one of the overall one of
It's
the best games in
exciting.
the
It's
series.
exciting, Ross, but you got to temper your excitement because unfortunately, in the realm of remasters, in the history of remasters, there've been some real dogs. Um, Now, the one I'm going to talk about, and obviously, hopefully, they're a good
Let's
company
hear
and
it.
make good games. Generally, the quality is very good from Konami. So let's hope that they're doing it in house and it's not some fugazi like we're going to get this developer you've never heard of to do it, and they're going to basically trash it. So the one that recently was utter like garbage was the GTA remasters. Which the only games that ever get remastered are the great ones. No one's no one's remastering like shitty Wii games from 2011. No one cares. What people are remastering is stuff that will sell, basically. So the GTA remasters were shit, weren't they? Basically.
I mean, the thing is, and I'm not defending it because they absolutely could have done with this, but what you need to focus on is, and it's a bit pedant here, what you need to focus on is the difference between a remaster and a reboot. So, like, what they're doing with Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta, that's going to be a reboot. So it's the same game, but current gen sort of graphics, gameplay. They'll more than likely add stuff to it, so there's replayability, similar to like Dead Space. Dead Space was the same game, but they added different like side mission stuff. We can, and again, we'll talk more about the remaster later. Sorry, the reboots rather. The remasters are just that.
I don't mean to disagree with your terminology, Ross, because I know you work in the industry. But it's just.
But you're gonna.
No. I'm sure that's the term that's used. I'm sure that's the term that's used. I'm not arguing that you're using the wrong term. What I'm saying is it's a stupid term for it. Because a reboot, in my mind, is like, if we look at films, a reboot is like this Indiana Jones movie. If they cast somebody else to play Indiana Jones and they basically did Raiders again, or they start again, that's a reboot. Whereas a remaster would be, you take the movie, you make it look like you touch up the things in it which are badly done, you make the graphics better, you make it better to look at, you maybe edit it. That's a remaster. So the GTA games I'm referring to, even from what you say about the Konami game, if it's going to be the same game and the same plot, that's a remaster. Even if they're rebuilding the game from the ground up, that's a remaster rather than a reboot. A reboot would be let's do a series of games inspired by the stories from these games, rather than let's reboot. If it's going to be the same levels and the same bosses and the same baddies, that has to be a remaster, surely.
You know what? There's going to be might be a first for Imaginary Movie Podcast. I'm gonna rescind my previous statement, and I think because you might have convinced me otherwise, Dave. So maybe like I'll sort of alter my statement. Like maybe you want to, instead of reboot, maybe replace that with remakes instead of remakes and remasters.
Yeah.
And again, it's pedant thing to sort of classify it as that, but the three GTA games, I mean, the only reason I bought that, it came as a trilogy pack. I only bought it for San Andreas. GTA 3.
It's the worst one.
Oh, dude.
In the remaster.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
I think it's a better game than GTA 3. Which
I mean, Vice City
is a fine game, but of its age. Vice City is the best one, obviously.
Best one in terms of like theming, story, style, and entertainment, absolutely. But it's when you look at the sort of mechanical outlay of the game, it's really difficult to go from today's standards back to that. That's the only thing. I mean, like
which is the reason why they do the remaster.
Yeah,
is to try and bring it to. Because I play a lot of older games, and we're talking like I play some DOS games, not a lot, but like we talked about recently, I can't even remember if it was in real life or on the podcast, that it just bleeds together, about the Fallout series and how I've played Fallout 1 and 2, which are PC games.
Yes.
And obviously you were a huge fan of the series, but I'll be honest, I don't mean anything by this, Ross, but there's absolutely no way you would get through those games. It's just because they're older games. They're not the same genre almost. You'd be bored shitless.
Yeah, no, I completely. Well, I don't know if you remember, but because I introduced you to the Metal Gear Solid franchise back when we used to live together in uni, and before I got you onto Metal Gear Solid 2, you had a GameCube, and we could have played Metal Gear Solid 1 on the PlayStation. I'm like, no, we're not playing on the PlayStation. We'll get the GameCube version because it was more akin to Metal Gear Solid 2 to get you into it. Because you wouldn't be able to get through it. Like, there's no fucking way I'm doing this.
And that's the point, and that is the point of a remaster. Obviously, like from a company's point of view, like money. That's just the whole thing. But like from the point of view, it's taking a property that's popular. Dead Space is a good example. Recently, Mass Effect also recently had a remaster. There's loads of examples, and And obviously,
Oh,
you take a popular
fuck.
game, you remaster it, so you touch it up and you make it better, so that you make it more palpable to new. Obviously, we, the fans who have already
Mhm.
bought it once, we get the benefit of it. But really, that's for like what they're trying to do is get a slice of the current market, so the younger people who haven't played it but wouldn't play a 20-year-old game because they just don't have the tools to actually like engage with that.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and again, like you're mentioning ones like I had a sort of like a list of games, and you're still mentioning games. I'm like, oh shit, yeah, Mass Effect, for example. It's strange as well because when you think of rematch, you think, oh, they're remastering like old games, but um, like it's becoming more and more common now. And I suppose it raises like for me, it's one of those ones where it's like, do you want to explore this because shut up, nostalgia, eat it, and cherish it and savor it. But like the pessimist is in me. Like, what does that say about gaming today? Is it just for the generation who played those games? Now they've got that generation has more disposable income now. Let's make those games again for them now because they will play it. Because I think like if a new I don't know, if a new horror game like the Callisto Protocol looks like an amazing game, I played it for maybe about 2 or 3 hours, and I'm like, I'm just not interested. And like you compare that with Dead Space, it's pretty much the same thing. But you bet your ass I got the platinum on Dead Space because I played that when I was,
Yeah,
16, 17.
and it's
Um,
and from the studio's point of view, it's cost as well. That it's usually cheaper
mm,
to
yeah,
basically rebuild a game like Dead Space or like Mass
yeah,
Effect or anything like that, where you've already ported it to 5 or 6 different devices anyway. So
yeah,
you've got it in a million pieces. It's easier to rebuild that because you're not having to hire writers. You're not having to hire. Do you know what I mean? A lot of the actual building
yeah,
blocks are
yes,
already there.
yes.
So
It's
even
already there. Just polish it,
and this is what they
polish,
tried to
polish.
do. This is for the GTA. I think is going to be the example of the worst remaster
Yeah,
in
that's
recent
going to be the
years.
one you go to.
And that's Rockstar, huge company. Like these games, which are beloved, I really do think the GTA series is, that company's reputation is founded upon.
Yeah,
And like GTA 3, because I've got them all on an Xbox, original Xbox, which I still have somewhere, and I've played them somewhat recently. And
yeah.
3 really does play like a game from what
Oh,
2003,
painful, painful.
2002. It
Yeah.
like the story's there, but it really does look and play, and
Is
it's
it?
it and
Is it though?
yeah. Vice City is clunky but playable. San Andreas was horribly buggy the entire time it was out, but generally like reasonably solid at the time. So what you
Yeah.
want to do if you're a Rockstar, you want to take these games, these assets that you own. You want to pay somebody. You want to have a department who's going to say, right, we want you to go in from the ground up, rebuild the game. You've already got all the plot, all the
Remake
story,
it.
everything
Yeah.
like that. You basically need to make it run on a modern gaming engine so that the
Yeah.
graphics look better. And obviously, that's really complicated. Obviously, it's not going to
Hmm.
happen overnight. But if they'd produced like a decent remaster, suddenly those games are worth like 40, 45 quid, 50 quid each again, and people will happily pay that. People like me, fans who will
Yeah.
who've be playing those games on and off for 20 years, and new fans who are waiting for the next GTA will also drop money on them.
So
And
it's quite
but that's a
interesting.
big if, obviously, big if,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah. It's quite interesting you're saying this as well because if you look at it now, the sort of the option you give up there, you know what I mean? You could do it like that, or you could do it the other way. And it seems that Konami are doing that because with Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta, I don't know why Delta's on there. Well, someone said Delta's the beginning of some sort of alphabet, but anyway. And what apparently, I still need to look into this, but apparently I've been told that they're remaking all the Metal Gear Solid games, but in chronological order. So first it's going to be Metal Gear
Right.
Solid 3, then you're going to have, I think they're doing Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2. Now that I might be making up, but then they go on to Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and then 4, which, oh my God. And if you look at other games like the Resident Evil series, like they had 4, 3, 2, and it's been money, 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 money. And that's what they're doing. But what Konami is also doing is, I think if you look on the PlayStation Store now, you will see the Metal Gear Solid collection. So like Metal Gear Solid 2, 3, and Peace Walker, like remasters. So not the remake, but the remasters. So that's on there. But I don't know if you remember, Dave, but the remasters was also out on PS3. It was also out on PS4, and now they're selling again. And I'm just like, on the one hand, you're like, well, you know what? Clap, clap, clap. Good on Konami. They're doing it right. Oh, also, give me your money.
Well, that's
Your money or your
ultimately
life.
like you can get bogged down in the capitalist nature of like video games, but it's just all these companies exist to make money
Yep.
ultimately, and what
Yep.
we need to look at is the final product. So Rockstar, a company with more money than God, probably, um, like they just biffed it. They really, really just like.
Mm.
And they're another developer who generally, by all accounts, are a horrible place to work. But that might be, the video game
Well,
minds.
let me
But
just touch on that now because I know why you're saying that, and there have been reports of that, but apparently that in the last like 2 or 3 years, it's important to note that there's been reports now that like they've really turned it around and they've made like genuine sort of strides and efforts to make it a more enjoyable place to work at. That's not the point of this, but I think it's worth mentioning.
that's good. It's good to mention.
Yeah,
I wasn't going to get bogged down in that.
no, sure.
Ultimately, these remasters stink. They are rubbish.
Oh, piss poor.
Like quite notably, San Andreas, uh, because of the way that they'd touched up the sprites. I think it was just a lazy, like cheap re-release of like, hey, fuck you, pay me, and all these poor
Do you
people.
know
I
what?
mean, if you buy it on Steam, to be fair, I think Steam's policy refund policy is really clear. If you played it for less than 2 hours, they will
Yeah,
refund it. But I know
yeah.
that console stuff is different. Like Xbox, you ain't getting that money back.
Digitally, it's really. I mean, the one of the ones that was really like you remember Cyberpunk. That was one of the first games where basically returns were being made in swathes, like not just at retail. People were taking back this game is broken, but also digitally, and it's it is. I can't think of an analogy of a thing that's hard, but it is nigh on impossible to get like refunds via digital
Yeah,
stores.
exactly. And it's also kind of like it's not really the done thing with video games and things. It's not like you can't really take it back because you didn't like it, and that's ultimately the reason. And these GTA games, like it was a shitty thing for Rockstar to do because they put zero work into it. It abjectly didn't work. San Andreas, if it started raining in the game, the way that the sprites worked, the screen more or less went white. You couldn't see anything because, like, and that's like a not uncommon thing to happen in the game. If the weather it says it starts to rain and it starts to rain, like apparently they were just. And I only played San Andreas because it came on Game Pass because I did not buy them and I nearly pre-ordered them. I did not buy them
I bought
because
them.
the reviews were so bad. They were so
Yeah,
terrible,
yeah.
and it's just like a bit of a slap in the face, and it makes you think differently about maybe giving Rockstar your money in the future. Or you'll maybe like, well, maybe
Well, don't
like
forget, don't forget,
again,
Rockstar
what's the
has.
benefit for me? What's the benefit for me for giving you my money, especially pre-orders and things? And I know that
Oh,
all these
we can talk
companies
about pre-order. We could
want
even do another episode
they
on pre-orders.
they want pre-orders. They want it because the metrics
Yeah,
really, really good at shareholder meetings and at fucking management meetings. It's like we've got
yeah.
X amount of pre-orders for this game. Guess what? I'm not fucking giving them a penny in pre-order for the next GTA or the next Red Dead. I'll wait till it comes out. I'll wait 6 weeks until they fix it, and then I might buy it.
The thing is,
Because
like
there's no benefit to me, Ross, as a consumer, to buy
we
it.
could talk about pre-orders all day, Dave. The thing is, back in the days of like maybe 2008, 2009, 2010, there was a purpose to pre-order because games industry, whilst still really taking off, still wasn't maybe there. And there was a point to pre-order because you were
Well, you
reserving
might
your
not get the
copy of
game
the game.
otherwise because they might sell
Yes,
out.
exactly. But then I tell you what struck it for me one day, and like it was before I even joined the games industry, but it was when I bought the. Do you remember the Fallout New Vegas collector's edition? And
I
I was like,
do.
oh, yeah, because you bought it too.
No, I played your copy, which you got earlier
No, no,
than I
you
did.
you got one too.
Yeah, I did on release
Yeah.
day.
All right. Okay. Anyway.
I'm not
Um.
sure if this would affect you, but I think you got your copy early because you were working for Game at the time. I think you're
That's
safe
right.
because that company is now defunct.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
they're
No.
not. They're not
Fine.
defunct.
Game,
They're
come
not
at me.
defunct. Game come
No.
at you. So you got
No.
your copy 2 days early because you worked
That's
there and
right.
you just
That's right.
took it home with you. So I've been playing that while you were at work until until the actual game came out and I could get my own copy. I distinctly remember, just memory lane here for a second, because you came home from work and you gave me this look that said, because I gave you this look that said, oh well, I'll just keep playing this for a minute, shall I? And then you gave me this look that was like, no, you won't be doing that. And there was no conversation. It was just well, you're going to save your game and take that disc out of your PlayStation, and then I'm going to play it because it's my game, and It's really stuck in my mind. That's totally reasonable.
That's right. I remember that now. But I remember like buying that, and then you think, oh man, I've got a real piece of something that's limited. Not many people have it. And I remember then going into the game then like the next week, and like lining the shelves was all these Fallout New Vegas collector's editions. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why did I give like 20 quid, like 6 months in advance for something now you're selling now at like 30 quid off? I'm like, it's a bust. You know what I mean? It's snake
It's
oil.
it's telling how worthless it is, Ross, because I
Yeah.
still have the special edition box
I
with the
actually managed to
with.
sell mine, and I got
Oh,
more
really?
money. Yeah, yeah, I got more money for it. But then eBay fees fucked me.
Ah, right. Well, I sold the game. I think I traded the game in back when you could do that.
Oh,
Um,
Dave.
Man, I've got it on Xbox and PC and fucking 7 other different devices. I didn't need
Yeah,
the
but
PlayStation 3 version of it. Anyway, I've still got the box, the poker chips, and the graphic novel, and the playing cards, and the soundtrack in it. I
Dave,
found it the other day,
Dave,
and I was like,
Dave, Dave. I just took a sip from my canteen.
"Fuck you, son of a bitch!" Um, and yeah, you're right. Like, what's the benefit? And there was no benefit then, really. Like
Mhm.
earlier in certain games and certain developers, they do a limited release of special editions, but it's all just like
Yeah,
so much fluff. It's marketing, basically.
I mean,
You've worked in marketing, Ross,
yeah.
and you know that it's just whatever these monkeys will fucking lap up.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! That's not what I'm saying. That's Dave's
That's the
opinions,
truth,
not
though.
necessarily reflect Ross's. Ross loves you all. Um, but
Smoke.
but nowadays, now you still have pre-orders. Like pre-orders are a massive thing, but now they offer like digital products. Do you know what I mean? And again, as someone who's in the business, yeah, you're offering something, for the person who pay up front. But again, as a consumer, I'm just like, no, I'll wait till it comes out, unless it's Metal Gear Solid 3, because
Yeah.
like a fool and like a hypocrite and like an absolute shyster, I'm probably going to pre-order that
Yeah.
collector's edition
Well, again, if
because
you're excited, it's one thing. I pre-ordered Warhammer Total War 3, which I know is not your like cup of tea whatsoever, but I was
yeah,
really excited for it. I pre-ordered it, and it basically didn't work when it released. Obviously, because no one releases a game that's playable nowadays. So not only do I not get the benefit of having pre-ordered it, there's no benefit to that. I also
mm,
get screwed really because I've pre-ordered and paid for it, and then I can't really play it for 6 weeks anyway because it's unplayable. And that's a separate issue, but like ultimately, it just goes to the like, well, why would you bother pre-ordering anything?
yeah.
But we were talking about remasters. We're not talking about pre-orders. This isn't the
Oh wow,
pre-order episode. We'll
God
save that.
Almighty,
We'll
we
save
were
that.
we almost blew it. We almost
Right. So
blew our
GTA,
pre-order load.
GTA, worst remaster I think in the last 10 years. I'm struggling to think of a worse one. Um,
Um, yeah, I mean, I think Assassin's Creed had the Ezio collection. Do you remember that?
I remember not buying it.
Yeah, I bought it. I remember that had some
Do you know what?
issues.
Let's talk about Assassin's Creed for a second then, because I actually really like some of their more recent games. But
Oh,
they
you
re-
fuck off. Fuck off.
Origins is
Right
really
off.
good, Ross. Origins is really good, and
No,
Odyssey is
let,
really
let,
fun,
let,
and I
let me
haven't
say
played the
this.
most recent
Let
one.
me say this. If they did something like the issue I have with it is, yeah, it's really good, but it's a really good RPG, whereas Assassin's Creed was like an action adventure stealth game. And what I really hated was the the artificial. Uh, I think we actually spoke of this before, like even in an episode. The artificial lengthening of the game. Like you've got to the story. Oh, I'm sorry, sir, but you're not a high enough level. But there's some side quests over there you can do, and then maybe you can stab the guy in the neck, and then maybe that will kill him. Honestly, like when I got to that point, and basically I'm in the haste. I mean, the thing is, I don't mind saying, "Oh, high level." That's fine. You know what I mean? When it comes to parrying, and fights, and being stealthy and running away, stamina, blah blah. Yeah, no problem. But when you're hidden and you manage to get a stab, a death kill or a death shot, death move should be just that. But it's like, oh, you stabbed him in the neck and you severed his artery. That took about 1/4 of his health off. I'm like, bro, come on,
It's
seriously.
just a departure from. I get what you mean, Ross, but and it is frustrating. But I
But what
think
I'm
it is
getting
just
at
those
is
games have
what
departed.
hang
Go
on.
on.
But what I'm getting at is though, but like you say, yeah, so they've got a great story, they've done this, that, and the other, and it's a great game. How if they'd have done something like, Assassin's Creed presents some other type of game. Like, I was going to say, just do some other type of game, but you want to get the sort of brand recognition from Assassin's Creed, and you know what? Fair enough.
So
So
you
then
want them
just
to
do.
still be making the Assassin's Creed games that you want while they're also making these new ones?
Not necessarily, but if you're going to make these new ones that are so departed from what made Assassin's Creed great, don't call them like Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Call it maybe, Assassin's Creed presents this
I
thing.
think I think you're asking for the impossible there, Ross, because it's money, isn't it? And those are the games they make. And now, like again, we come into this all the bottleneck all the time. Like we aren't really like. There's loads of fans of that series, and we aren't really them. Like, and they're not even fans of. I remember being at school because we are 8,000 years old. I remember the trailers for the first Assassin's Creed when I was at school, and we were sat
Yeah.
watching them at school, and it was really exciting. But there are kids, Ross, like who are 18 now. What does that make them? Like 2005, who were born in 2005, a
Oh
year
my
before we were watching
oh
trailers for this
my
game. They were born.
god.
So like when you consider that, it's just the fact that we're old and like actually most people don't remember the early Assassin's Creed games. They remember the newer ones, and those are the ones they like, and those are the ones they're going to go out and vote for with their wallet, and that's what it is, isn't it? I didn't play the remaster though.
Good argument. Well presented. But I say,
Yeah, fair. Fair. But tell
boo.
me about the
Boo.
remaster, Ross. Tell me about the Ezio collection.
It was it was fine. Do you know what I mean? It was a fine game. There was nothing. It was just that it was a remaster, but I do remember it was laden with bugs. I remember like one time, like I'm trying to get like all the collectibles. And I remember there's one time there was a like was it a feather or something you had to grab,
Yeah,
and
feathers all
just
over the spot.
every time I grab it, then basically it would like spam out, or like he would just glitch out, or just freeze in spot. And every time I try and load it, get the feather, and I'm like, oh, I'll just go off and play the rest of the game. But then I thought, if I get every other feather and I'm just left with that one, and that's what's stopping me from getting platinum, I'll be pissed off. So I stopped playing it. I'm like, no, forget
Yeah,
it. Similar to actually, because when you mentioned with the GTA, when you mentioned the bugs in San Andreas, I was like, oh, I don't remember that. But I remember why I started playing San Andreas because I remember that I started of the trilogy. I began with Vice City because I loved that story, and it's when I started the Phil Cassidy mission where that cutscene plays where he's blowing something
yeah,
up, and the game would just never start again. And
yeah.
because they added this new autosave system, I was in the loop of like freeze, close the game, open it up again. The cutscene would play, freeze. I couldn't even load an earlier save because who does manual saves anymore?
No. Well, this is the disappointing thing, really, from a remaster. It's just you want the game to be better, and I guess, like we should say, a lot of these games were buggy when they came out. Like there were different bugs when they were remastered, but it's not like
Still
they were
playable
totally
though.
clean and yeah, totally clean and everything when they came out. I'm trying to think. So they're remastering. I don't know if you ever played it because it's maybe not like a Ross game. A phrase I say without any judgment or reference to any other time we've used that get name
Uh-huh.
is Knights of the Old Republic.
Oh, I know you love that game. I didn't know they were remastering that.
Well, I own it on the first one. I think I own it on iOS, Android, Xbox, PlayStation. I think I've got a copy of it on PC, and I own it on Steam. I adore that game. I really, really, really do. And the sequel. And so they're
Wow.
making a remaster. I think it's still on. I think they're still making the remaster. They were. The second game got rushed, and they basically like cut a load of content just before release because it wasn't
Mm.
finished. And they had a dev team working on restoring a lot of that content to the game. Not necessarily a remaster, but they were going to restore all this dead content.
Mm.
Well, modders have done it a lot in the past, and it's all rubbish to be fair. But they were going to restore all that, and I know that's been canned, but I think they're still on with the
Wow.
remaster, which is
Fair
again
enough.
what you would maybe refer to as a reboot. It's not necessarily like a let's punch it up. I
Yeah.
think they really are just rebuilding the game.
I mean, the thing is, if you do a remaster, you know what I mean, or as opposed to a remake, let's stay away from reboot. But if you do a
Yeah,
remaster, Ratchet and Clank was a reboot. Actually, that's one. Ratchet and Clank. Um, eh, so if you do a remaster, and fair enough, you don't get it on the console. I don't have a much problem with that if the price reflects it. But you have someone to make a remaster and then charge you 70 quid for for the
Yeah.
privilege, and we're going to get to those naughty folks in the
Was The
name in
Last
a
of Us?
second.
Did The Last of Us do that?
Oh, Dave, you spot! I literally said we're going to get to those naughty folks in a second, and you just came right in with "Was it The Last of Us?" Yes, it was The Last of
Sorry,
Us.
Ross. I'll refer to my script where I've spoiled our
I was
pre-programmed
trying to be
episode where
coy.
we just have a conversation. Well, let's talk about
Unbelievable.
The Last of Us then. Give me a spiel. I want to hear it.
Well, first of all, I fucking love The Last of Us. I
Great game.
absolutely.
Decent TV series.
Oh, right. Aren't you glad we did that? Aren't you glad we watched
Oh,
The Last of Us?
I also would have not been that bothered if I hadn't watched it. But yeah,
You're a
I
piece of
enjoyed it.
shit. But I mean, but the game, do you know what I mean? When the time it came out, it blew doors wide open. Do you know what I mean? It was a zombie game, but it's not just a zombie game. The story, everything, heartrending, fantastic. And then, because that game launched in, I think it was around May 2014. Fast forward 5 months, the PS4 releases. Fair enough. And then I think basically maybe like a month or two after that, Last of Us Remastered launches. Now, that launched at full price, 50 quid. But it did come with all the DLC as well. So you think, fair enough. And it still had the online and stuff as well. So brilliant. Fast forward a couple of years, PS5 comes out. And then, The Last of Us Part 2 releases. Brilliant game. Had its ups and downs, had its controversies, but whatever. Fast forward then maybe a couple of months, and The Last of Us Part 1 releases. Now, The Last of Us Part 1 it could be a remaster, could be a remake, could be somewhere between the two of that original PS3 game. £70.
I saw this because I was like, what? Because I
Now,
looked at I saw that it'd been, the only reason I noticed was because I don't have a PlayStation anymore.
yeah, you should buy a
But The
PlayStation.
Last of Us Part 1, it would give me 500 quid, or you could have given me that PlayStation that you won for free. Anyway, let's not get into that here. The Last of Us Part 1 is on Steam, so I could have played it on my computer.
Yeah.
Except it was 70
Could
quid.
be
I
on
was
Steam
like, no. I was like, yeah, if it's 20 quid, I'd have paid 20 quid to play the original game, not remastered at
Yeah.
all, to play the original game on the PC. And I was like, well, I'm not paying 70 quid to do that.
Yeah. The most shocking thing with all is like, there was no justification for that 70 quid. You could have like re-released the PS4 version on PS5, and you know what I mean, people would have bought it. But like to charge 70 quid for a game, by the way, that didn't have online. So you actually got less for more money than you did like years previous, which is terrible.
Bullshit.
Yeah, it is. I mean, again, fantastic game, but I think they reached too far on this one. I mean, like,
It's all about a balance of, especially with the reboots, it's because you want to please the fans you've already fucking got. Like,
yeah,
obviously, new games great, but I feel like we're really in this is more a general gaming thing. I think we're really in like we haven't really had loads of AAA games in the last 2 to 3 years, really. Like, all the big RPG games, especially, are all like 10 years old. Like, Skyrim is still like one of the best-selling games on Xbox.
yeah,
And that game came out 12 years ago, which is fine. Like, don't get me wrong, it's fine. But, like, it feels like companies they don't want to spend that money again. So what they are doing is spending a smaller amount of money to release another edition and entice you to buy that, rather than putting that money into making a new product.
I mean, I think as well is like, when you said there's been no AAA games, I think you might be slightly wrong. Maybe not AAA games that you would necessarily play, because we've had a lot of horror games. We had Dead Space, we had Resi, Callisto Protocol. That was maybe AA as opposed to AAA.
Sorry, I say like, I mean, by AAA games that I play, I mean like specifically like maybe RPGs.
Yeah. Which fair. I think you're right, and like I think those games, I think there's a bit of purpose to that, because you still like, it still feels like Fallout. You can still release content for that, but they've already moved on, like Fallout 4. But I want to make sure I get the wording right. I want to get out here. It's you have to look at the market, and like RPGs will always have a place, but there'll be fewer companies that do RPGs because you know,
It's just so expensive.
it's expensive, yeah, but not just that, but it goes in waves. Do you know what I mean? And like, 6 years ago, it was all about the battle royale. You know what I mean? You know, the shooting thing, get in close, and then recently now in the last 2 years, it's been all about survival games, crafting, building, open world survival, that sort of stuff. And now we're coming on to the next thing, of like building sims and sort of like cozy sort of style games. There's still things for like multiplayer and all, but like I say, it goes in roundabouts, and I think it'll come back to where RPGs are strong again.
Well, Starfield.
Well, but again, those are the outliers. Those are the ones, like if you're working on an RPG. If I was working on an RPG right now, I would say fucking nothing. I would wait until Starfield is out. All the influencers have done stuff on it. All the press has been raving about it. Give it 6 months, then I announce my game.
Well, yeah, because like you want to swim in the wake of Bethesda. You want them to spend the money and get people excited about these kind of games again. You are absolutely right, Ross. I hadn't really thought about the ways of things. Largely because we're old and because I don't work in the industry like you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I'm horribly out of touch. Basically, if you don't tell me about it, and it doesn't pop up in my YouTube, and Sam doesn't tell me about it, I don't fucking know about it.
Horribly out of touch. Brilliant, David Neal, put that in your tombstone.
Horribly. I mean, that's just the nature of that's an existential question, Ross. We're all horribly out of touch. That's the nature of getting older. It's fine. I'm totally at peace with that.
Well, I'll have you know, Dave. I'll have you know, good sir, that my son told me today that I'm cool. So speak for yourself, because I have it on authority that I'm cool. Thank you.
He probably meant something else. The word probably has a different meaning now, Ross.
Well, just couldn't pronounce cunt.
No, he's your son. He definitely can pronounce that. But that's the whole point of remakes, isn't it? And remasters. It's for old fucks like us. And I know that Sam's dad's a big gamer, and he's 20 years older than us. And I imagine he's gone through all of this again. It's really, he plays. Ask Sam about it.
Yeah.
But I imagine that in 20 years we'll be in a sort of similar spot where we've seen all of these video games come and go, and maybe have a bit more context on that. And God, I hope we're still playing video games in 20 years, because it will be a dark day if I can no longer find enjoyment and escapism in a video game. But that's why all of these remasters and remakes, whatever you want to call it, remakes and remasters, are targeted at old fucks like us. The one I wanted to talk about, which we haven't talked about, was Mass Effect.
Well, I'll tell you what. Before we get into Mass Effect, I've got a bigger list of remasters and remakes here.
He's going to shoot them out on me.
Well, I'm going to see how many you can guess, and we'll talk about them as we go. So shoot them out. So first of all, Mass Effect, you said. So let's start off with Mass Effect then. So what do you want to say about Mass Effect?
I thought the remaster, again, I was really cheap. I waited until it came to Game Pass. I thought the remaster was pretty good. For a game that... Go on, sorry.
No, I was just agreeing with you. I was saying I think they were quality. The only regret I have is I haven't actually finished them yet, because it's just being an adult, and I played Mass Effect 1, and that drained me.
I did the same thing I did when they first came out, Ross. Mass Effect 1 at least is only 7 or 8 hours. It's really short. But they've done a really good job remastering that, I think, because
you know what kills me is because I like to try and complete everything, and that monotonous fucking task.
The loading scene.
No, not that. I don't mind that as much, but it's the monotonous task of mining for minerals. Boom, probe.
Is that not
launched. 2? Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So after I've done 1, and then I'm in 2 now, and I'm enjoying it, but I have that monotonous task of trying to complete everything.
I got further. So when they first came out, I think Mass Effect 2, and I've had this before, is one of my favourite games ever. I think when you get to that nightclub in Mass Effect 2, I think is
Omega.
It really is a peak of video gaming for me personally. I just think it's so good, and it takes everything from films and just dilutes it down into this wonderful game that I played ad nauseum. Now 3 came out, and they were like, right, let's do that again. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Because the whole point of the Mass Effect series, when the whole thing was, it's going to be this one big saga. The 3 games are going to be one game, basically, and that's what they wanted to do. And that is somewhat Innovative.
Achieved, yeah.
So innovative because it didn't work. Um, because you've got to be able to make it so that other people will buy it. You can't just have people who bought Mass Effect 2 buy Mass Effect 3. So I played
Yeah.
Mass Effect 3 and I never finished it. I think I watched a YouTube video of someone else finishing it, so I saw it and I was like, that's fine. I don't need to spend my
I
time
don't
doing
feel
that.
the need for it again.
And what happened was I was really, really, really enjoying it, and I basically chained like 1 to 2 to like probably about halfway through 3, which I had never played all the way through.
Yeah.
And then I went away for 3 weeks for working, and then I came back and I haven't played it since. And that's not, there's no fault there because I was really enjoying it, and I think they've done a really, really good job ironing out a lot of the shit in those games,
Yeah. Yeah.
and making they look better, they sound better. They've integrated some of the DLC stuff into the base into the remaster, so it doesn't feel quite as like the DLC characters in 2, for instance, felt really like they didn't integrate with the rest of the
Out
game
of
at all.
place. Yeah. Yeah.
They're out of place. They didn't have lines in scenes and things, and I think they've done a really good job at polishing that up. And that's what you want from a remaster, not a remake, but a remaster. Is you want them to just take it and go, right, what didn't work, what pissed people off, what can we add in to embiggen this experience? And I think Mass Effect 3 is a really good example of how they did that, which is somehow at odds with the fact that they made Mass Effect fucking Andromeda, which is one of the worst games I've ever played.
God. Mass Effect Andromeda. Like, I nearly said, Batman was the last game I pre-ordered, and then I corrected myself because I remembered I actually pre-ordered Andromeda digitally, 70 quid. I'm having that digital deluxe. Get in, having that off the back of everything you were discussing, Dave. I never played 1, loved 2, loved 3. Oh man, Andromeda. Yes, that's like 60 hours of gameplay. No problem. Boom, pre-order, have it. Midnight, download, playing at launch. You know what I mean? I'm an adult now, and I'm up to midnight. This is how excited I was to play, and I got like an hour in, and I'm like, I'm so bored. I'm so bored. I was like,
It's a real
uninstall.
problem. It's a real problem.
Yeah.
But at least the remasters are good.
Yeah.
Now,
Okay. Next on the list, what can you think of another one? I'll tell you what. I'll just go.
they did Dead Space, which we've mentioned.
Yeah.
Um,
Dead Space. Oh my god. Now
keep
that
it
is
brief, Ross. Let's keep it.
okay. Brief. An incredible horror game that fucking takes like a lot of stuff from movies and like previous horror games and just condenses in this brand new experience that's unique and like everything from the setting, like the USG Ishimura, to the monsters, like everything up until this point, like, oh, zombies, got to shoot them in the head, and it's like, no, you've actually got to shoot the limbs off of them because shooting the head's going to do nothing.
Was the remake good? Was the remaster good, Ross?
Dave, it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible, and it adds more to it. It's not only like because you actually get side quests and stuff now to complete, but also the original character. So Isaac, the protagonist, he doesn't speak in the original one. He speaks in numbers 2 and 3, and they actually give him lines in this one. Not a massive thing, but still a nice to have.
That's
This
cool.
game, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 for a remaster. They fucking nailed it. Just do more. Now do Dead Space 2 and don't fuck it up. The heartbreaking thing is obviously like Dead Space 1 and 2, fantastic games, but it wasn't fantastic by EA standards. So then they did Dead Space 3, which is like a co-op game, and they changed it from horror to like run and gun sort of style game co-op, and it's just ruined it. So let's hope. The next one I have then is Resi. So you have Resi 4, 3, 2, and 1. Again, incredible game.
I only ever played, embarrassing admission, I only ever played Raccoon City, and I didn't play a lot of that.
You mean Resident Evil Raccoon City? Operation Raccoon City?
Yeah.
Oh, that multiplayer game? Yeah, that's...
With you, I think. It wasn't good.
Yes. Yeah. No, it wasn't good. No, but the Resi games, I mean, Resi 4 is one of the greatest all-time games, and the remaster does it, the remake rather, does it fantastic justice. Prior to that then, 3, 2, and 1. Brilliant. Incredible games. Then you have Alex Kidd, that was done by Merge Games. That was like a remake / remaster, because you had like the retro graphics. Yeah, it did pretty well. Did pretty good.
It's an odd sort of one, because that's like even before our time, really. Like, nearly.
Well, Alex Kidd was Sega's mascot before Sonic came along.
Yeah. Well, I remember it because on the Sega Master System, which we had because we were poor, if you booted the console up without a cartridge in it, and the Master System, the Mega Drive, the second Mega Drive, didn't do that. If you booted it without anything in it, it didn't do anything. But the Master System, if you booted it without a game in it, it would play Atlas the Kid, and it was like, oh my god, an onboard game! This is amazing. It was the best thing.
Wow.
That's a really low bar. It was a really
Amazing.
low bar for the technology. Again, if you're under 25, ask your grandparents about Sega Master System.
Then we have The Last of Us twice, how we just discussed.
Fuck, you pay me.
And then this is one then, Uncharted.
They've remastered that. Oh, they did. They did, didn't they? The
They
first
did
two.
they did the Nathan, no, first three. They did the Nathan Drake collection for PS4. I actually got like the little press kit for that. It came with like a little USB bullet sort of thing. And I think they're doing it again now, called like the Thieves Collection. So they're doing that twice.
Is it going to be released on different consoles? Because I really liked. Again, that's a series I came to and played. I played the Nathan Drake collection. Because the first one is a bit like Mass Effect, where it's actually really short and not a very good game. And the second one's really good, and the third one's excellent. Is it, or is the fourth one the pirate one? The pirate one's the best one.
Well, I quite like two. Two is the best one for me. The one on the
But
big,
they're really, really good.
the one on the big train scene. Yeah,
Yeah, the train scene's excellent. The pirate one's the best one. And is that 3 or 4?
that's 4. So
Four.
they're not doing 1, 2, and 3 again. They've remastered 1, 2, and 3 for PS4. Like the game just came out in the last generation. I don't know why they're remastering it.
Because it's cheap, Ross, and they think they can sell it.
Yeah, they're remastering on Uncharted 4 and the Lost Legacy DLC, which
was good.
Now, don't get me wrong. The Lost Legacy DLC is a brilliant DLC. It's a standalone game, but you don't need to remaster it. Anyway, Halo Master Chief Collection, of course.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. They're good. Video gaming history. They're still quite playable. I think a lot of the.
I think I might play it.
I think most modern shooters are kind of like a direct. There's a straight line between Halo and
100%. 100. Actually, we should play that if you're up for like online co-op. We should play.
We used to play. I played the first co-op game I ever played was Halo 2. Halo 2 co-op with a friend of mine from different houses. Like it was like futuristic.
Yeah,
we used to play it when we first got Xboxes. We were playing it. Because it's on Game Pass. Let's play it.
Ezio Collection. We talked about Dark Souls remastered Dark Souls when PS5 came out.
Yes, they did. Dark Souls, or am I thinking? Yeah, I want to play Dark Souls.
Oh, wait, Demon Souls. Sorry, Demon Souls. Demon Souls.
Onto the next, then, not Demon Souls. I think they have remade Dark Souls also.
Yeah. Silent Hills 2. That's another Konami game. They're redoing that as well. Where am I? Gears of War. They've remastered that, haven't they? Yeah.
They were some really bang average games. I like the first. No, that's not a bad thing. That really isn't a bad thing. Like, the first one was good. It was novel. It was fun. It was brutal as fuck. There was a great onslaught mode in one of them. But they were just, like, not well written. They were fine. It's fine. Yeah. It's a game where you're killing aliens, but, like, a bit bland, maybe, but good. But so I'm not really interested in the remakes. Really.
Yeah. Metal Gear Solid, the collection again. That's coming out. That's out already. Splinter Cell. I think that'll be good. The remastering Splinter Cell.
I can hear Sam getting erect from here.
Sam Fisher or Sam Jordan?
Sam Jordan. He loves the Splinter Cell games.
Okay, good enough. Max Payne 1 and 2.
Oh, Never played.
Oh, Dave.
Of course I didn't. This seems like exactly the sort of thing I wouldn't have played. I really liked the PS3 one. Yeah,
Max Payne 3.
It was good.
Max Payne 1 and 2. It's so much more noir and dark and play it, honestly. You'll love it.
I'll keep an eye.
Mass Effect, we talked about. Knights of the Old Republic, we talked about, and then Ratchet and Clank. That's 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, if you include all the sequels we mentioned, like for Resi 4, 3, 2, and 1. 27 remasters.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because, like, it's just... It makes sense. And the remaster, I hate it because it's annoying because it's like, well, fucking work on something else. But like Naughty Dog remastering... Is it Naughty Dog who make Uncharted?
Yes.
Yeah, Naughty Dog remastering the Uncharted that came out 3 years ago makes perfect sense because probably all the people who made it are still in the building, or most of
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
Like the department, like probably hasn't been like properly like reassigned to something else. So you've got the people, just fucking have them remaster it. Great, do
Yeah.
that, but do it again, and it's cheap, and then you can release it, and it's not free money exactly, but it's a lot less than making a game from scratch.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm sure we've missed some. Didn't they be? Or was that more of a reboot when they did Doom, the new Doom series?
What?
That
Say
was
that again.
before
Sorry.
Doom.
What about it?
That's more of a reboot, isn't it? The new series. It's not like a
Yes. Oh,
inspired
it's
by. Yeah.
so good. Well, it's sort of like a reboot, sort of like a sequel sort of thing. But yeah, reboot is better.
Yeah.
Ratchet and Clank was a proper reboot as well.
Yeah.
But God Almighty, Doom's amazing. Doom
There's
2016.
lots of good stuff out there, and it's kind of like what I find really irritating, but totally understand why. Is Bethesda have never remastered any of their games. There's all the
Mm,
17,000 editions of Skyrim, and allegedly they've punched up the graphics a little, but it's still on the same engine that they made in 2011. But I think that maybe is just like it would cost them so much money to remaster some of these games.
yes. Yeah, big
Same
time.
with the Fallout games. Like, you really think that Fallout 3 would benefit from just a sheen of let's take it and like iron out all of the like really shit graphics and really shit bugs and like maybe and
Yes.
again, but it's that investment versus return. I suppose games like big open world
Thing is, I know
RPGs.
I know I'm in the minority because I prefer Fallout 3 to Fallout New Vegas. But if they said, "Oh, we're doing a remaster of Fallout New Vegas," I like people would go absolutely bananas for that. Something to
Well,
plug the gap
certainly
as
the
well
two of
between.
us would go absolutely bananas for that. I can't speak for the rest of the population at large, but certainly we would be very excited.
Dave, I just took a sip from my canteen.
Son of a bitch.
That joke is only funny to you and I.
The only people on the planet. So unfunny that we won't explain it. Um, but it's interesting, isn't it? And I guess what annoys me about the remasters and the remakes is not so much that it's like the GTA thing, isn't it? It's that I kind of demand, if you're demanding that I pay what I would pay for a brand new game, which I very rarely do. Like, if you're demanding I pay you £60 to £70, I demand that you put the work in and that the product is
Yeah,
absolutely perfect. Like
damn
Metal
right.
Gear Solid, Ross. If Metal Gear Solid 3 is
Oh,
remastered and it's anything less than sublime, like it's really going to lower my amount of money I want to pay for it because
yeah.
ultimately I can emulate the fucking old game for very little money, like or no money.
The thing
But
is, I'm confident this will be of quality, and I'll tell you why. Because a couple of years ago, Konami announced that they were remastering Metal Gear Solid 3, and they showed. Now, you may not know, but obviously, like Konami have their own like game engine, and it's called the Fox engine, and basically, it was the first game and only game so far they used for it was Metal Gear Solid 5. Visuals and all are absolutely fantastic. And they showed a cutscene of, Snake and the boss having an interaction in this Fox engine footage. And people are like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. And then, like, 2 weeks later, they revealed it was a pachinko machine, it was a gambling machine. And
yeah,
people, like, there were riots in the streets. There weren't riots in the streets. But yeah,
in
so
your head, they were in the streets
yeah,
of your head.
I rioted in the street. So Konami, no, especially if they're doing Metal Gear Solid 3, they cannot muck it up. So I'm
Yeah, and I hope
confident.
that it just continues to be. It's nice when a company respects the fans, especially Konami seem to be pretty keyed into the fact that the fan bases are people like I'm probably on the outskirts of I like those games, but
Mm,
I'm not rabid about it like you.
mm.
I don't mean that in a bad way at all. I'm
No,
rabid
no,
about
sure,
plenty of other games. Just rewind this
I'm
ten
not
minutes and
even
hear me talk
ashamed.
about Knights of the Old Republic. But it's nice to have a company sort of respect that and be like, we'll try and do their best by their fans, and it's more of a make it the best thing.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, remasters. More of them, less of them. I guess just like the one thing you can't do, and this is my last point. Absolutely, the
yeah.
one thing you
It's
can't
it's a
do
finite
is
resource.
not remaster it and then also take it off the store because they keep doing this with old games. Like, just put it
Yes.
so I can play it. Like, just have it on the store at under a tenner, and I'll buy it. Guess what? I will just give you money for that thing.
So, honestly, like there's been a couple of like journalists that I follow like on YouTube and stuff, and they cover stuff like this here. And
Just
honestly, like,
around
yeah,
between their work and home.
yeah, just staring at them. But like they said, like they equate it to like just a dragon sitting on his hoard of gold because they don't want you to be able to play it, but they also don't want to give the rights to someone else so they can make games with it, and they just sit on it because it's worth some sort of value, and they don't want to lose. They don't want to somehow lose that value. And yeah, I agree. Also, the thing with remasters, like I said 2 seconds ago, it's a finite resource. You can only do so many, and you're gonna have to do something new.
Well, the market talks, doesn't it? And ultimately, like, eventually people are going to stop buying them because eventually you're going to get diminishing returns. Yeah, it's great. Let's remaster a game from 10 years ago because there's been a huge leap forward. But game now in 10 years is going to look quite like a game now. Do you know what I mean? We're already approaching photorealistic video games. So
Yep.
when we hit that point, it's then like, well, remasters are dead because obviously, what's the point?
Yep, you're 100% right. You're 100% right.
Yeah.
Ooh. I'm glad we got that off our chest.
Metal Gear Solid out? When's Metal Gear Solid out, Ross?
Oh, I think it's fall or maybe next year.
In English, the autumn.
Autumn. Jesus.
Did you say fall in Ireland?
No, probably not.
Fucking plastic paddy over here, honestly.
Did you just call me a plastic paddy? That is incredible.
I did. Yeah, you just said fall.
Incredibly racist.
No, it's disrespectful. It's absolutely disrespectful. I don't think it's actively racist though.
I don't have the date to hand. I do know it's on the video. I'll check out the video. But yeah,
is it going to be within the next 12 months? It's not like a.
Oh yeah,
we'll be doing this and it'll be released in 5 years. Cool, that'll be worth keeping an eye out for then. And hopefully we'll report back. We'll do an episode. But I'm not buying the game, but we'll do an episode. You can talk.
Yeah, you might get it on Game Pass. You won't get it on Game Pass.
Don't you threaten me with a good time, Ross.